We have this confession which comes from Jonathan. Jonathan, thank you for this. Father Simon, my story begins during the long, hot summer of 1976. I was 11, and my annoying little brother, let's call him Stuart, was 9. Like any older brother with an annoying younger brother, he insisted on following me and my friends around like a lost puppy, much to the amusement of my friends who used to rib me about it at every possible opportunity. Something had to be done about Stuart. That summer, I'd become firm friends with someone from my school called David. David's family were quite well off and had just purchased a brand new top-of-the-range caravan, which took pride of place in their driveway. David's father, a rather scary, imperious police officer, would spend hours polishing his new acquisition whilst boring us at every opportunity about how hard he's had to work and how much he'd had to save to get such an impressive state-of-the-art example of modern family holidaying luxury. One particular afternoon, I, with my ever-present annoying little brother in tow, turned up at David's house on our chopper bikes. I just pause at this point to say they both had chopper bikes. I always wanted a chopper bike, and I've never
amazing,
had one.
isn't it?
So both of them,
What's going on
fine. Now, for those that have never had the joy of riding one, says Jonathan, I thought choppers were inherently unstable, actually, due to their rather small front wheel and silly easy rider-style handlebars, which made steering in a straight line, shall we say, challenging, to say the least.
Very true.
I really wanted one, though. I never got one.
Okay.
David's father had always made it very clear in his rather stern policeman tone that under no circumstances should we attempt to ride our bikes on the drive, but to dismount on the pavement and leave our bikes well away from his new pride and joy. Well, maybe it was the heat of the long, hot summer getting to me, or possibly just the thought of doing something I'd been told I wasn't allowed to do. I shall never know. But not only was I going to ride my bike on David's drive, but I was going to steer my wobbly steed down the narrow gap between the shiny new caravan and next door's hedge. You can perhaps sense where this is going. Yeah. I set off at pace up the drive, utilising all three of the chopper's gears so as to gather up as much speed as possible. By the time I reached the shiny caravan, I was going at a fair lick, I can tell you. What followed was one of those slow-motion moments captured in my mind forever as I lost control of my wayward mount and my brake lever made contact with the side of the caravan. When I say make contact, I mean it left a 6-inch long, very deep and very wide gouge, which even the hardiest of panel beaters would have taken one look at and with a sharp intake of breath, declared it a completely lost cause. I was going to be in deep trouble. I looked around in panic. Had anyone seen my transgression? It would seem not. Luckily, my brother and my friend David had already disappeared inside to play with his extensive train set. Not that I was jealous of his Flying Scotsman and first edition Mallard locomotive, which would later mysteriously catch fire. But that's another confession. I had to act quickly. David's father was, after all, a highly skilled police officer with his detective law enforcement training. It wouldn't take him long to work out what had happened. I hatched a cunning plan. I grabbed my bike and bent the brake lever down far enough that it didn't line up with the huge indent now adorning the expensive caravan. And then it struck me. Not only could I absolve myself from blame, but I could lay the guilt very squarely at my annoying little brother's feet, or more precisely, at the angle of his brake lever. Without a further thought, I bent his brake lever to the exact height of the massive gaping fissure and left his bike next to the caravan whilst moving my bike back to the pavement. Soon enough, David's father returned from work and his keen eye spotted the rather large, less than attractive addition to his beloved caravan. We were all summoned outside by David's father. To say that he was enraged was frankly a gross understatement. I heard words uttered that day that no 11-year-old or anyone else, for that matter, should ever hear. After his comprehensive detective work of matching up brake levers to the enormous chasm in the side of his pristine caravan, David's father declared that the only possible culprit was, shock horror, my little brother Stuart. As you can imagine, we were all gobsmacked. How could this have happened? Still, he was only 9, and sometimes 9-year-olds do silly things, I said to David's father, feeling so slightly guilty. Fake gasps from me did little to improve the situation, as my confused little brother was led away sobbing by David's father to confront our parents, while I and David retired to the safety of his bedroom to play with his trains. The sight of my little brother being led away by a policeman in uniform to fess up to his parents for a crime he didn't commit isn't one I'm proud of, I have to admit. On the plus side, he never wanted to play with me or my friends ever again. Excuse me. I'd like to beg forgiveness, not for what I did to my brother, who frankly is as annoying today as he was back then, nor for the accidental damage to the caravan. Because to be honest, I hate caravans. I do feel mildly sorry for David's father, but that's only because he was stupid enough to be conned by an 11-year-old. I do, however, seek forgiveness from the panel beater, who no doubt had to spend many hours of sweat and tears removing the humongous cavity from the caravan, knowing full well that however good the repair, it wasn't going to be good enough for David's father. Thank you, Father Simon, and the hopefully compassionate collective for listening, and I wait with some trepidation as judgment is bestowed upon me by you and hopefully your sympathetic listeners. Well, as ever, this is going to depend where you are in the pecking order of the family. If you're the younger or the youngest, I think it'll be a no. Anyway, let's check in with very responsible Sister Jackie Brambles.
Well, I am Spartacus. I, too, was an annoying 9-year-old sibling in the summer of 1976. So no, sir, you are not forgiven.
Purely based on...
good, I like it. That's
on
good.
Family situation.
Quite right.
Brother from another gutter.
I'm going to forgive because I was the elder sibling, and my policy on younger siblings and their annoyingness is pretty clear. Also, I'm going to forgive because it took us a nice little trip down memory lane to the 70s with your choppers
Which
and
I
your
never had.
three
I
gears.
never had a chopper.
Absolutely, and your flying Scotsman.
It's all wet
and
round for Simon now.
Yes,
I feel he's
it
never
is.
going to get over it.
Quite right. Definitely.